You're live.
We're preparing to live stream meeting, setting up.
Wait, hang on. Benjamin's not even with us.
Okay.
He was gonna. That's right.
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Hello.
Brother, while we're waiting for this to start, we'd like to have our first conversation.
Great.
Okay. So the topic of this conversation is the idea of person B potentially being fully integrated into this house for some period of time. And we need to know that some period of time at any moment in time could result in total period of time. So you have to take seriously any person who walks in this door, because at any moment in time, the level of national emergency or forced not being able to move on streets or highways could happen anytime. So we have to have that level of intentionality with literally any person who even walks in the door. So having said that, Benjamin, can you just start off by letting us know what you think about this topic?
Yeah. On a personal level, I think for this person personally, or other quarantine opportunities involve people who are within the at-risk demographic. So there is her own sovereign desire to be isolated in a context that doesn't put people that she loves at risk, which is, I think, something important for us to note, although not all of our considerations. Practically, I believe that her income is somewhat resilient, since the nonprofit that she works for does not require, she's able to work remotely, and they should have a decent runway to weather this thing out. Although, of course, none of that's guaranteed. So financially, I think she's already verbally committed to me to be willing to contribute to the quarantine supplies, and may have access to income while other sources of income in the field are not accessible. I think obviously there's the $120 lift that is also part of this consideration. And then there's also the final piece that I'll name is the dharmic piece, where I do feel like there's potential that life is actually bringing this to a head, because One Nation is meant to work more directly with this coalition for the Amazon that this person is spearheading, and that actually it could be a really beautiful synergistic weaving that life is actually designing. Although I'm not attached to that interpretation.
Yeah, received. I want to jump in with a slightly different lens, which is we're about to go into an all hands on deck process. And I feel a very strong need, as I'm just beginning to inventory roles of executing this well, including intelligence and research and analyzing information and copywriting. And there's just like a lot of manpower. And so I'm looking for that actively right now. I feel like a general convention is that if somebody's going to be here, that they need to pretty much be all in for this. And a body here that contributes a little bit financially, but is essentially still fulfilling a day-to-day obligation that has them energetically isolated from a all hands on deck participation that's happening here, feels like that's taking up space that that could and should be allocated for an all hands on deck participant in the operation we're activating. So I'm curious.
Yep, and I don't
feel
degree which that is or isn't true here.
Yeah.
And I also think there's an all-in way of looking at this coalition that is forming as an integral piece of the campaign, potentially an extension of the first meeting that we had here, which, as far as our leadership being brought forward and connecting this to other planetary level systemic issues,
yeah,
I feel like there's a strong alignment, and we could weave that in a way where her all-inness is
integrated
more
what she's already
integrated.
also doing. Yeah.
I also just want to share, Benjamin, that last night in my grounded ferociousness, I also claimed that since we have just a limited number of beds here, we have a limited number of blankets, of bedding, of even our own personal capacity to pre-fund the things that we're going to require. If in fact we are quarantined for something more than a month, I actually don't know that we're in a position right now to collect what's required for so many people to sustain ourselves effectively through an elongated period of time. And so it feels really important to me, this piece on rules. If we are going to transmit ourselves as an island of sanity, it feels really important that everyone is all in. And I really claimed that last night, to the point of even considering if another person who I mentioned to you on our conversation this morning even is the best fit, because if anyone has another option of where they could stay, if they can still stay engaged in the field, I feel like who we have under this roof is really important right now, more than ever before. And I want to be taking that decision really wisely. I said, basically drew down the sword yesterday morning and basically said, moving forward, it's on a role to role basis, and what's their role, and are they all in, and is this something that they're ready and available to support entirely? Because I think that this is our moment in time. This is why we're here. And so I want to make sure that it's not through the kindness of our hearts that we're saying yes to anyone, but it's actually through pragmatism and necessity. And I wonder if who you're inviting in has any other options of anything else that could also, or maybe even be better than this. So that's where I feel like I'm standing strong at this moment in time.
The good news that I'll say right now is that I'm not going to be making any decisions based upon the kindness of my heart, compassion, or pity. So you have to never wonder if that's the case. So if I think something's a good idea, know that it's not going through that lens whatsoever. And I don't even think it ever needs to be brought up again, because that actually just isn't what's happening here. So there's a deeper place than a hard sword on a rules by rules basis, because there's actually a mystery, and there's a mystery that emerges. And if we all think about that scene from Interstellar, right? You guys have all seen that. It's the very end. He needs to figure out what timeline to go to, and there's a million timelines available. And the only thing powerful enough to perceive that complex set of situations that breaks the brain is a feeling in his heart. And it's the feeling in his heart that helps him to know what's true, and it guides him directly to the perfect timeline. So that's actually where we're in right now. Our heart is processing more information than our brain is able to, and we need to know how to connect to that feeling tone to help to make decisions. And when I connect to that feeling tone for myself relative to this particular situation, I find a yes inside of myself. And I feel like that yes is contextualized by her being fully integrated into this operation, and feeling the trust and coherence that him and Benjamin have established thus far, her engagement in media, with that being our prominent focus, her connections with her existing type of work, which I would imagine if this continues to escalate, then how many things that she would be doing that are not fully contextualized by, it's okay, it's just the amount of things that she would be doing that aren't fully contextualized by this virus situation will probably start to reduce. So I think there would be a very natural availability of her energy to be engaged here. And I feel like if something comes up that is better for her, then that can be surfaced. But I'm right now looking for manpower. And I feel like there's a manpower situation presenting itself that crosses a lot of my initial lenses of vetting. And so if that were the case, then Benjamin, I would request that you'd have a conversation with her about the real vision of her not being here as a person, but the vision of her being an integrated part of the operation. So that's kind of, that's the one constraint, naming that there's still this fluid, flexible possibility of her participating in her existing efforts, both simultaneous from the income standpoint as well as from the collaborative standpoint. But that the context is her engaging the operation. Over.
Clear.
Who's
Hi, love. Welcome. We are recording live. So, and we're just flushing through the details of what we need, how to prepare ourselves, starting with one particular conversation.
you're not excluded by any means.
Not excluded.
Yeah, I think you just need to trust and sense what feels true for you. And I'd love to see if anyone has thoughts on this particular situation.
Based on the conversation we had last night, that would be relevant for your voice to be heard.
Benjamin, do you imagine that this would reactivate a personal romantic aspect of this partnership, or that you would affirm kind of commitment to maintain that not happening, or are you feeling openness to explore what might happen?
Yeah, we're in a really beautiful emergent state of our relationship where there is a form of intimacy that we share, and it's also incredibly grounded in our personal sovereignty
Received. My guess is in a crisis situation that's going to bring you two closer together, and you'll probably likely re-engage in that way. And so I just want to name that possibility and probability for your eyes wide open as you're potentially saying yes and really feeling out how that might impact your own personal life path.
Yeah, and I feel in a really healthy place to sovereignly connect to whatever those implications are, and feel really grounded in the mission first and foremost, and really moving into what Mark Gaffney calls wholemates. These are Dharma relationships, and I feel that level of connection with each of you.
Yeah, clear. Okay, well, it's got my yes.
I feel like no.
Great, we got a no from Sophia.
And it hurts me to say that, but I just don't feel a yes.
No, that's you have every right to
You're
say that.
speaking your truth.
You have to.
I just trust.
Okay, no, that's
This is why we're having this conversation.
great. So Alwyn really does get to consensus. So I have no intent whatsoever on convincing your place because I trust where you just checked in from.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to say on the topic?
I'm leaning towards a yes, and I really want to understand the spaces we have available and the other people that we're considering.
Totally. It's huge. Okay.
Yeah, and like I just wonder, I understand that there's a time piece here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like
I feel like there's a no in the field, and there's not a no, there's a not yet.
there's a not yet.
And so I feel like we should progress with the Lyft situation, Benjamin, and as we get a little bit deeper in today and tomorrow, and we start looking at roles and things of that nature, then it might create more clarity and space for Andrew's maybe probably and Sophia's no to transform, or it may not. But I feel like that would be the natural process by which, if there was a transformation perspective, it would require that time.
Yep, I think that works.
Okay.
That connects with, I think, probably what I imagine will be Brittany's, this person's experience of needing to get all of their options in order, and and I think the cost piece is like the only other piece, and I think we've got that handled. So
Okay.
I align with that proposal. We can revisit it.
All right. We got a full determination. Let's execute the ride share and let's get you en route, bud.
Text me.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So we're going to move right into our next conversation because we're still awaiting this situation. And that conversation is, I think that we're just going to have this next conversation first because that was like in the moment time sensitive. Is he going to get on a Lyft or is he going to get, this doesn't have that same level of context, although I'm tracking it completely. So let's go straight into grocery provisions, money, that kind of thing. We've got a spreadsheet created right here. I'm going to share it with everybody.
Slack.
I will put it into Slack in 1 second.
There's one that I've created. Is it?
Okay, this is called a virus master sheet, and I created a virus folder.
So we're done with house member.
Yep, cut it.
Cut.
Yep.
Okay, I am pausing now.
Are you gonna share that?
And the
I'm
next
still
one,
getting the link.
next conversation is called.